Hey guys, it's Sam here. Welcome to another episode of Modern Life. Today we're talking about Greta Gerwig's Little Women. I know, something that's not a 20-year-old movie. It's crazy. We're going to be here with Tabby and Stacy, and we're going to dive right into it. Let's do it.
I scorched my dress, see? There. And Meg told me to keep still so no one would see it. You can laugh if you want to. It's funny, I know.
I have an idea of how we can manage.
As always, before we dive into this week's topic, we're going to start with some modern thoughts, some stuff that's on our minds. What do you guys, who wants to start?
I can go. Mine is just an update on our Goodbye Lenin episode.
Okay.
In it, there's a scene in the movie, even if you're not familiar with it, takes place in East Germany, and the Germans start singing this Russian song in the car that everybody knows, and we were wondering how they all know this Russian song.
Right.
And I looked it up, and your compulsory language that you would have to learn in school in East Germany was actually Russian. So then if you're on the gymnasium track, which is the schools in Germany that kind of lead you to university.
It's like the top high school.
The top high school. I don't want to call it that because it creates like class issues and like feel like the trades aren't regarded as well as if you're going to university, but that's a whole different story about German education. But the second language that you would have to choose for that, you could choose between English and French. And just a comparison to that, when I think when I was 11, my compulsory, so this is 11 years after the fall of the wall, because I was born in 89, my compulsory language that I had to learn, and I think same for you, was English. Mm-hmm. You couldn't choose, and then for me, later on, I could choose between French and Latin, and I think nowadays they also have Mandarin and Spanish in some schools, so.
Okay.
But yeah, if you were in East Germany, you would learn Russian.
Makes sense.
And I'm wondering if that's why also the schools had to be reorganized so much, because you weren't teaching these subjects anymore. Because most people would now be learning English instead of
exactly
instead of Russian. So
yeah, it's like you got to scrap the whole curriculum.
Yeah,
it's probably like some communist school curriculum that you have to totally scratch, right? You want to go next? Or want me to go next, Stacy?
Mine's just like literally going to take 2 seconds. It's just that I read an article how Corona's sales.
The beer Corona?
Yeah, sales have dropped. Huge percentages, 38%, because people are making a connection between that and the coronavirus. I just thought that was hilarious. So
what does that say about us as a species?
That we're not intelligent.
Do you like walk into the gas station, like, I want a beer, and you look it all over, you're like,
coronavirus?
Wait a minute!
You're selling coronavirus.
I'm not going to let you get me coronavirus. I'm going Bud Light.
I just thought it was hilarious.
Like these subconscious connections. Like we are
stupid.
How are we like made it to the moon? It's just crazy, right?
Yeah, there's I guess a bunch of pressure on them too to like change their marketing strategy, because they just like came out with like one of those seltzer drinks and it says coming to the shore soon, and like everybody's like freaking out about it, and they're like, I'm not going to change my marketing strategy based on this. It's like so stupid.
Corona.
That's their whole thing. Find your beach.
Yeah, I know. That's what's so funny, because it's not like it's a new
to the shore soon. That's terrible. What do you do if you're Corona?
Oh man,
they could change it, but they're like, no, we're just going to stick with it because it's just who we are.
Already invested so much money into that.
They'll be fine.
But I thought it was funny.
You gotta twist the marketing somewhat, though. I don't know.
They're not doing it. They like refuse to like give into it.
Figure that out.
Yeah.
They'll be fine. They only own like 10 other beer companies. I think Corona's going to be okay.
All right.
Everyone shed a tear for Corona. This is a free advertisement. My modern thought is I read this amazing article on, what is it? TheBoldItalic.com. This is an article that went pretty viral this week. It was an anonymous, what do they call who are the people in the office that like run the office?
Administrator?
I guess, yeah, office administrator.
Secretary?
It was an office administrator in Silicon Valley. They decided to stay anonymous for this article. It's basically shedding light on her working conditions that I guess are pretty common in these tech offices where, if you don't know anything about it, I mean, tech companies are notorious for spoiling their workers with all kinds of different perks, right? A lot of people don't like tech workers because they get inevitably this insane sense of entitlement. And so she documented that in this article through her daily, what happens on the daily with her job. One thing being, I guess just a little while ago, she's in bed at like 10 p.m. on a Thursday watching TV, and someone from the office texts her a picture of poop floating in the toilet, going like, "This isn't flushing, like, what do I do?" And she on the daily, toilets get clogged, and she has to like help these people. And like, these are grown adults in their 30s that don't know how to, she's like, there's a plunger right next to the toilet. They like don't know how to do that, or they're...
So wait, they're why are they texting her?
Because she's the office administrator, and she has to do like everything for these people.
But she's not the janitor.
No, well, that's what she's saying is like and even her boss has told her this when she brought it up, everything the workers want, she's like their slave. There's a whole text thread about just the temperature in the office, and someone will text her that they're cold, and she's expected to drop everything she's doing and like go change the temperature. But the problem is she's literally seen, if two people are sitting next to each other in the office, one of them texts her that she's cold, and then the other one 5 minutes later, without knowing that the other person has texted her, texts her that they're hot. And it's this insane like mentality that Silicon Valley is known for.
Well,
like,
but I mean, the article may be new, but even on this podcast and everywhere you go, there's jokes about these tech bros and these tech people being out of their minds. It just reaffirmed that belief. It just goes to an extreme level. And she was blaming herself in the article too, going like, I don't know how to set boundaries, which is like, you have to. And she just, everything. Yeah, but then if you set boundaries, especially as a woman, do you then get your boss being like, oh, you're not doing your job, or you know, I don't know.
And she has to like, we want this certain whey powder in the break room, or make me a snack, or you have to organize this office. Like just she has to do everything.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just
So all the stereotypes are more than true.
All the stereotypes seem to be true. Yes. But she's like, if you give these people all these perks, like inevitably this is what people are going to turn into. It's like,
there was a scene in Moms, the first one, where she's working at that coffee.
Moms?
Yeah, Bad Moms, where she's working at the coffee company.
Yeah.
And it like tries to replicate that because it's all these like. She refers to them as teenagers because they're all like these 20 or early 20-year-olds. And they're like skateboarding, and like her assistant comes in and she's like so hungover and she like is popping pills. She's like, I don't even know where I'm at right now. And then the boss comes in and like asks her to go skating with her, like roller skating. And it was the funniest.
I love that movie.
I do too. I made him watch it the other day.
Finally saw it.
Wait, did you think it was funny?
It had its moments, yeah.
I think it just appeals to so many. Like when I was watching that movie in the theater, for example, when one of the moms finally stands up to her husband, they were all screaming. I was in a theater of women and everybody was just like living out their fantasy.
I think I struggled sometimes with, and I think American comedies love to do this, where it's like one scene is, oh, this crazy, shitty, drunk house party, and then 2 scenes later, it gets really somber, and the mom's crying, gets really serious. I struggle with that.
Yeah. There's some tonal.
There's very tonal.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not like a consistent kind of comedy with a consistent tone. It's very like mood swings all over the place. Yeah. I struggle with that sometimes.
Taika didn't direct this one, but it's still really good.
It ain't no Jojo Rabbit. All right, shall we get to the main topic?
Yes.
Little Women. I'm going to be saying Little Women a lot.
Explain why.
I'm obsessed. There. What is this? 3/4 through the movie, when the dad finally comes home, the first thing he says is like, "My Little Women." It's like so on the nose because it's the title. Like I get that's what he calls them. I'm like, is that the first thing you say when you come back from the war? It cracked me up. Like we gotta make sure he says the title in the movie first time we see him. But I'm obsessed with him doing that. I don't know why.
So I made my brother watch this for my birthday,
and no regrets.
It's incredible. My brother hates period movies.
Yeah, hates them.
Don't like period movies, but I think we figure it out. I think it's more the British accents that I don't care for. Watching 2 hours of people going, "Oh, hello, Miss Margaret."
You can't even watch an actress that is like has too much of a British accent. You get annoyed. Like Emma Watson.
Who was great in this movie because she was not doing a British accent.
Most of the time.
Yeah, she dips in there a little bit.
I love how Stacy by now is just used to, because we're European, we have something to say about every other European. We're always like, oh, the French, they're so French. Oh, the Italians.
There's nothing wrong with the Germans.
Nothing.
No, Germans are perfect.
No, I'm so glad you dragged me to see this movie because it's one of the best movies I saw all year. No, it was so good. And
very nice.
I don't know if I've ever cried that much. I was crying like a little 6-year-old schoolgirl whose ice cream just got taken away. Like, man, and the acting was phenomenal, especially what's her
Florence
little
Pugh.
round face there, Florence. Man,
Yeah,
so
she is
good.
phenomenal.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the grief in this because I wasn't sure if that was something that that took over the movie too much for me.
They got really sad after the first half.
Yeah, the second half of the movie, it's really... But every scene, like, hits you, too. And then you have the scene of, like, the neighbor not wanting to go in the house because he's like, she's dead.
It doesn't ever feel forced, like we're trying to make the saddest movie in the world.
But at the same time, I wish it wasn't this sad. But then also, it's almost like a twist on the book. Because in the book, that is something that bothered me about sadness and grief not being explored. Because the book is so religious. It's incredibly religious. And for example, there's a scene where the kids ask the mom, like, what if dad dies in the war? And she just says, well, then he would have just done his duty for his country and I would be happy about that. Like, they don't, it's like, that's God's will and that's the end, that's the, and also, I always find it really upsetting that they don't tell Amy in Europe that the sister is really, really sick and they're not wanting her to come home. And in the book reading that, it was really tough. It's like, well, she's coming home anyways after she dies, like, and she hasn't seen her sister in years. Like, wouldn't you want her to at least get a last moment with the sister? We must not spoil
a vacation.
But aren't they like following the wishes of the sick sister?
Well, I didn't remember that from the book. In the movie, I know they said that. But then also, like, as a mom, aren't you an adult? Aren't you like, no, I'm going to ask your sister to come home because you're dying? At that point, they know she's dying. And if I was Amy, I would just be really upset. Like, you didn't tell me my sister was dying while I'm, like, running around in Europe.
Yeah, but I think you need to understand that they're looking at it. Okay, you remember that one scene where they explain, like, how, you see Florence talk about, like, marriage and that whole scene with her talking to, and how, like, it's her responsibility to take care of the family. You think that maybe it has a play on that a little bit because it's like it's so important for her to like find somebody to marry and like be able to support the rest of them that like maybe that has something to do with it.
Right, at that point she didn't even know her sister was sick.
No, I know that, but I'm saying like that maybe that's the reason they don't tell her because of that, right? Like it's her job to do that.
No, that's not something the mom would ever think about. Her needing to support the family. The mom is very like Mary for love, but in the movie I actually thought it was well done of them finding a reason for Amy to stay away and then also them just dealing with their feelings a little bit better than they did in the book. Right. So I think Greta Gerwig improved that from the source material. I just wasn't sure if it was a little too much by the end. Like, I'm done crying. Right. Like, I don't want to be sad anymore.
Yeah, but I think that they dealt with it I don't know. I feel like that was missing in some of the other adaptations where like it was like too quick. Like I wouldn't have gotten over it that fast. You know what I mean? It was more realistic how it was done in this movie. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
And for me, it's different because as someone that doesn't cry a lot, especially not during movies, then you have this, like the movie's done, you're like me as the person I am, like I feel like, okay, that's my crying for the year. Like, you all get it out. Like, I feel good.
So, Sam, as a German, what was it like feeling emotion for the first time?
That's enough crying for the next 5 years. It feels really good to get it out. Does that? I don't remember. Does this movie? It never really touches that much on the dad being at war. They kind of take it for granted that he's going to come home, right? I never got that sense of like, oh, dad might not make it because it's rough out there, man.
I mean, when they go to meet him, that's a really traumatic time for the family.
Right.
When the mom has to go over there, how are they going to afford the train ticket, you know? But I think Greta Gerwig made a really conscious choice to, like, this is a movie about the daughters. It's not about the dad. So yeah, I don't know. It's another choice I actually really liked. And then by the time the dad does come home, we don't even see him when the mom's up there.
Yeah.
Right.
It does feel a little silly for him to be like, my little
women. I guess maybe that's my one critique of the movie where I get it's about these little women, but they're obviously so ecstatic, like when their dad finally comes home, but I never got the sense that they even like missed him that much, or like, I don't know.
You didn't feel the grief.
I could have used like 5 more minutes of exploring that in the movie just to have a little bit more of an impact when the dad comes home.
Yeah, I didn't feel that either, but I only felt
I feel like when
from the book.
The dad has been gone so long, he's at war, and he finally comes home, it should have been, even though it's such a kind of minor part of the story, that should have been a big, like, holy crap, like, dad's finally home. I didn't quite feel that because the dad really kind of gets tossed to the wayside.
There is a really well composed scene when, you know, their greatest Christmas gift is this letter from the dad.
Right.
Which is in the beginning of the book, but the story being switched around, I don't remember where it was in the movie. And the way they're all kind of holding each other and sitting around this chair, I was like, that's a really conscious choice how they're sitting, and I like that. Mm-hmm. But that was really the only moment you got about
that's really the only
dad.
thing that stands out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when they were writing the script, they could have put like a couple like just inserts into other scenes.
Is Papa ever coming home, Mama?
Yeah.
Suddenly this movie's taking place in the South.
Papa? Which
it's a little princess movie.
Yeah. Papa. But I mean, you know, by far the dad is just, he's obviously not the main male character focus. I mean, to me that was the rich neighbor, right?
Chalamet.
By what's the actor's name? Cooper. Is it Chris Cooper?
Who are you talking about? Timothy Chalamet?
No, the rich old neighbor who like
who's like the father
so
figure.
Fond of them. Yeah, he kind of is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Chris Cooper.
More like a grandfather figure.
Yeah. I thought he was so fantastic. I don't remember. I feel like Chris Cooper is always like the guy at CIA headquarters hunting down Jason Bourne. Like, I've never seen him in this type of role, and you could barely recognize him because he's got just the hair and the facial hair that you've never seen on him. And I thought he was so good. I'm like, okay, yeah, there's a reason this guy's been around in Hollywood for like 40 years.
Yeah.
He's actually
I've
a really
never
good
seen
actor.
that character highlighted in other adaptations.
Yeah, he was done very well.
He was so, and that scene where he doesn't want to come in the house, it's like, oh my God.
That scene where he's listening to the piano.
Yeah.
That was done really well, too.
I'm crying.
No, he was so good.
I want to talk about the Academy Award nominations for this.
let's get into that, or the lack thereof.
I'm not even talking about Greta Gerwig, which is just, I feel like that's well known, but I just thought the Laura Dern thing.
Yeah, that bothered me a little bit.
Why was she not nominated for this? Why did she keep winning awards for the Marriage Story movie she was in for 5 minutes?
Which I didn't see the Marriage Story, but I'm like, I mean, you saw both movies. And like, really? You're going to tell me she was better in the Marriage? If she's better in the Marriage Story than she was in Little Women, like, okay, I really got to see the Marriage Story. She was almost like a main, to call her a supporting actress in this, I guess barely. She's like almost like a main character, right? I don't.
No, she's definitely a supporting role.
I guess. She's in the movie lot, though.
Joe's the main character. She's the heroine.
Yeah.
In this one, almost Amy takes
That's the thing about this one is that that's adaptation. I think that was my favorite part in this one was just the whole how Florence Pugh like played Amy. Her entire role, like I hated her in the book. I didn't like her in any of the adaptations. This is the first adaptation that I've seen that from start to finish, I loved her character. And I understood their relationship a lot better and how she could forgive her and just like, I don't know. It was the most well-rounded version that I've ever seen done of this character.
Which you thought she should have won the Oscar for.
For sure. Yeah.
Who ended up winning it?
Laura Dern.
Oh, it was Laura. That's right.
Yeah.
Laura Dern and Meryl Streep. Oh my God. Yeah. Like no way. I mean,
she was phenomenal.
Amazing.
She was so funny.
Even if it was Florence against Laura Dern in this movie, I still would pick Florence. It's like she was, to me, like the best part of that movie. That when that whole speech she gives with Timothy Chalamet. But when she's
in the studio,
you know that wasn't in the original script that they wrote it within 5 minutes before they filmed. They like handed a paper written version of it.
She has a scene with him in the studio and one where they're in the park when he's like, like, you know what you should do? Like he's like implying he should marry her, and she's like, it's not fair.
Oh, that one. That was a great
When I've
scene
loved
too.
you all my life.
Yeah.
Straight to the heart.
Yeah.
Oh, man, just she also. It helps that she had like the best lines of the movie written for her too.
Yeah.
I mean, the one that stands out to me the most is when they're all like, she's like, when Joe is like, when did you get so wise? Right? And when isn't that where she's like, if I wasn't.
No, she says that to Timothy Chalamet when he shows up drunk at the party. And if I wasn't loved,
I'd be respected.
I'd be respected if I couldn't be loved. Yeah. Which I do not. I looked it up. I didn't remember that line from the book, and it's not. It's an original line as far as I know. I listened to a interview with Greta Gerwig, and she actually said that she used a lot of other lines from Alcott's other books. And just put them in here to make it feel authentic, and I thought that was a really cool.
So wait, what did you have something else to say about the Academy Awards though? Because I know you wanted to jump into that.
That was basically it. Somebody online was like, "Florence should have been nominated for Midsommar." I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here!
Get out of here!" Midsommar.
What a waste of my time watching that movie.
Just a lot of crying and crazy people,
and violence on brown bodies again that I have to watch.
You want to talk about Timothy?
Oh, okay. This is one of those things. Like if you say Colin Firth wasn't the best Darcy or Christian Bale wasn't the best, Laurie, there are wigs on the green. There are fights in the period drama community. My favorite Laurie is actually, this is going to sound ridiculous, but from the Canadian YouTube miniseries on Little Women.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that so many times. It's so good.
The Laurie in that was really, really good. I thought Timothy Chalamet was okay in this. He was fine.
I remember when you first talked about the movie being casted, you were so upset that he got it.
He's just a little child.
You couldn't picture him in it. And I think for having the images of him being that childlike, like he doesn't come off like what I imagined when I read the book, him coming off as at all. I'm saying like, that's not who I envisioned in that role. Like ever.
Timothy Chalamet? Yeah.
Like he's too young looking, but past that, his acting, I think, pulled off where it was actually believable, which for me, his appearance would immediately make it not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So based on that alone, like, I give him credit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he does not the best I've ever seen in it by far, but I think that based on my own prejudices ahead of it, like he did.
Right. I mean, younger kids are going to grow up with this version and not the Winona Ryder version. They're going to be like, oh, Timothy Chalamet is Laurie,
I'm just saying, like, when I read the book, it was never my image to see such a.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say, but he just looks like.
That kind of felt very staged, and something that bothered me about it was this.
Sorry, go ahead. I think I know which one you're talking about.
I'm talking about the proposal scene.
Yeah, you know that that he actually was allowed to go off on his own. He didn't follow a script at all. That was all. Like, that was yeah.
How are you finding all these things?
I found that in the
IMDb. Greta this morning before the podcast.
I looked at IMDb, and it's like a whole thing. It says that's like the one scene that like he was allowed to
when we're on the hill.
Yeah.
That's funny you say that because that was my pick for the most. That's his scene That's a scene with Timothy that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
It feels very... In other parts of the movie,
Acted.
it feels very, I'm acting.
Right, but I think that's also something I like about it, because it's him just being caught up in these emotions that they're obviously not really in love. And obviously you finally feel in this version that they're not meant to be together. I think Greta tries to make that very clear.
Yeah.
And so he's just like caught up in all this drama, and Joe's like, you know, you need to take it easy. So I got the overactedness of it, but I couldn't even pay attention because he had anime hair the whole time. And his hair was just sticking up through the whole scene, and I'm like, I can't focus on anything. Get
Comb
this
your
man
hair
a
if you're
comb.
going to propose, for God's sake.
It was that the hair took it over the top for me. And this is another thing that Stacy and I already talked about, but all these, I mean, there were people at the time writing to Alcott, like, how dare you not make these two characters be together? They're meant to be together. And people are still saying that nowadays and shipping Laurie and Joe. And I'm like, did we read the same book? It's very obvious that they're more brother and sister, and that
They're
not suited.
They're too similar. They're like twins.
Yeah.
They both go off on these tangents. They need somebody that's like more solid to like base them and like make them more realistic. Like they would feed off of each other, and it would be just a spiral of like every Shakespeare movie where they end up dead in the end. I mean, I'm sorry. That's what to me, that's what it's like. It's just like, it's unrealistic. And I like that she grounds it a little bit and makes it so that they don't end up together, because to me, it's not a real companionship.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no balance.
Yeah.
Well, his acting, Timothy's, it at times is so effortless. Like when they're dancing, when him and Joe are dancing outside of the gala, the ball, whatever the hell it is. I don't know if it's just him being a really young actor with a lot of raw talent that's just not, sometimes it's going to come off really well and sometimes it's just not. I don't know. Because I'm not like the biggest Timothy fan, but I mean, he worked for me in this movie.
Yeah, I think that based on he did a lot better than I thought he was, which is impressive based on the fact that I was not excited about him being in this movie.
Couldn't wear a damn tux to the Oscars like everybody else. What was he wearing? Like
a tracksuit.
Oh yeah, well, it's like a black tracksuit. Like, of course you are. I remember him. It was like at the Independent Spirit Film Awards.
Oh,
for
you were
Lady
there,
Bird.
were you?
No. But Jesus. No, because I watched some parts of that because that was when Nick Kroll and Mulaney were hosting, which was hilarious. But they show him during, because I just watched the monologue of it, like Independent Spirit Awards. I want to say it was like 2 years ago, and he's at this awards ceremony. He's wearing like a car mechanic button up that your dad would wear, Stacy. It's like this white and blue striped with like a little pocket up here.
Those are still like thousands of dollars though, because they will show up on the designer pages and they'll showcase.
Right, but it's like
Chalamet's
it's an award
style.
ceremony. Like he's like that guy. He's that freaking hipster that always has to like wear something so different from everyone else. Like, I'm gonna wear this bowling shirt.
That's a thing right now, and that's his image.
But that's,
like,
I think that's what rubs me so wrong about him.
But
It's
Chris
like,
Pine does that and it works.
How does Chris Pine wears a damn tux to the Oscars, and then when Common sings, he stands up and he claps and he stoically is crying. Chris Pine has a level of classiness that Timothy will
I don't
never
know why
have,
you would ever bring
okay?
up Chris Pine.
How
He gets
dare
very
you.
passionate about Chris Pine.
How dare you compare the two?
No, but you haven't seen those memes where he wears like the flowing...
That's different. You do whatever the hell you want in your private life, right? I get Chris Pine's a pretty big hipster, but he knows when to like tone it down, right?
I'm sure Timothy's
got that
listening to this and he will
classiness.
take your advice.
He's got that grown up. He's a damn fine man, that Chris Pine.
Greatest
haven't
man I've
figured
ever
it out.
met.
Greatest man of all.
Sam is slightly obsessed with Chris Pine.
Chris Pine should be the next Indiana Jones, okay? I think he'd be great.
He'd be great.
He'd be great. Put a little hat on him,
Dun, 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 dun,
some boots,
dun,
leather
dun.
vest, a whip, and those bright blue eyes. And no shirt.
I wanted to say something interesting about the costume design in creating past and future in this movie.
Okay.
This is the first movie I think that I've seen where Amy isn't two actresses like we talked about. There's like the smaller one, and then there's the grown-up Amy.
Yeah.
And I think that's what also makes us connect to that character so much, because we get to spend so much time with one actress. And I loved how they just made her dresses really short to show that she's younger, and then also have her hair in a different style, which and which would be common, at the time.
I also think it was interesting that they made each of the characters have like a certain color associated with their clothing throughout the movie.
Joe was red,
Amy's
right?
blue the whole movie.
Amy's blue. And then they made the mother like wear a combination of all four of them.
I didn't
at
catch
all
that.
times. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Which I thought was like,
pants.
She's looking it up on IMDb over there.
So Meg's colors are lavender and green, Joe's are red and indigo, Beth's are pink and brown, and Amy's is light blue.
Let's see, in the scene where they're all standing on the staircase, Emma Watson's wearing pink.
In that scene, Emma Watson's the only one in that scene. You're looking at the wrong picture. That's where she's at the debutante ball, and she's the only one there.
I don't know what the hell
But
I'm
that
looking
actually leads into, I think that's one of the scenes that people are really upset with in modern times, is Laurie, who already has alcohol problems, who's younger than Meg, coming up to her and being like, "You're a damn slut. Why are you dressed like this?"
Yeah.
Again, the book is incredibly religious, and it's Meg's like one time to have the kind of lifestyle that Laurie enjoys every day, and dress in these like silk dresses and drink alcohol and like have a good time. And I think Greta Gerwig did a great job of kind of softening that a little bit more and grounding it, because that scene upsets every modern reader, and it's one of those things where it's like another moral lesson of you don't ever look good, or
Yeah.
So I liked how she changed that.
Oh, I had something else to say about the Academy Awards, and it's totally eluding me.
What do you want to talk about, Aunt March?
Aunt March, yes.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Meryl Streep playing Aunt March? And
Marilyn?
Meryl. Do you have any?
Is that her actual birth name? Let's see a birth certificate.
You wouldn't make it on Billy on the Street.
No.
Yeah, she has that line or that conversation with Amy, where she's like, "You have to carry the family. There's two things a woman can do, like open
Putting
up
the
a
weight on her.
whorehouse," which that line is not something Aunt March would ever say or think about. Or
I just feel like they made her more intelligent in this movie than they have in past versions, and I kind of liked it because it made more sense to me that she had the money she did, with the fact that she understood things a little bit more. Does that make sense? I'm trying to say that I just think that I like the development that they did with her in this movie, in this adaptation, rather than in the past, because I like that she has that kind of understanding of how the world is. Because like in other movies, I didn't care for her or understand why she was so like critical and just rude. And in this one, it kind of like made more sense. She's just trying to harden them a little bit so that they could survive.
But that's definitely a modern change that Greta Gerwig did, and those other versions are more grounded in the source material and in the opinions and viewpoints that women would have had at the time.
Yeah.
So if people, I don't know, if people criticize that, I can't really give them a hard time for it, even though we all loved it. But it's again a conversation that these characters wouldn't have had, because Aunt Marge is just kind of the villain in the book until she leaves Joe all her money at the end. But yeah, that was great. I also loved that cute little scene where Laurie runs after them in the carriage, and he kisses Aunt Marge, even though that she hates it. But I don't know. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah.
There was an interview with Bob Odenkirk. This is what I'm remembering I wanted to say about the Academy Awards. He was saying that maybe one of the reasons Greta got snubbed is I think there's a fair amount of people that vote on the Academy Awards that didn't even watch Little Women, is the impression he got, because it's like, and a knock against it was, it's just another version of Little Women, and they kind of ignored it, not seeing that. Yeah, it's like a whole fresh take though, and I think he was saying maybe it got ignored because like, oh great, it's only like the 50th version of Little Women, I'm gonna like go watch something else. So maybe, even though it's such a great movie, the fact that it's an adaptation of something so well known could have been a knock against it. So I don't know. How do you feel about that?
This actually brings me to an interview I listened to on the podcast is called Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith, where he interviews Greta Gerwig.
Okay.
And when this trailer came out, I said, did this really need to get made? And on the interview, Greta Gerwig said, yeah, did this need to get made? No, there's already 10 other versions of it. There's like an anime of it. There's this and that. But if a source material really grips you, then that's what you need to do. And I love that self-awareness that she had about the project of like, well, this... And very early on, she already knew that she was going to switch the scenes around in the timeline to kind of spice it up a little bit. So it's, maybe what you're saying, I can see that happening. It's also a
stupid point because it's like when another Romeo and Juliet comes out, no one's going to be like, do we really need another Shakespeare movie? It's like, there's a lot of things that get remade over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, the Academy... And also that the one thing that she was nominated for, Best Adapted Screenplay... I personally think Taika deserves that because Caging Skies is so different from Jojo Rabbit, and the changes he made to it I thought were, not that Greta Gerwig's work is any less groundbreaking, but to me that category is, it's a joke. You're telling me all members in the Academy read the original source material, then read the script, and then watched the movie to arrive at this decision.
Out of these 5, what's your favorite? That's what it is.
Like nobody's gonna actually do the work to judge this fairly.
Yeah, well, you can say that about anything, like... all these, because what is the Academy at the end of the day? It's like a collection of writers, producers, actors. It's like everyone, it's like a bunch of people from the Actors Guild, right, that vote on this. Like, you're going to tell me that they watched all the movies that came out this year to, like, then be able to have a fair vote on it?
Audio mixing? You know, are they going to have an understanding of, like...
Right. I mean, you can say about every category. Like, there's going to be, I'm sure, plenty of people that vote for one movie not having seen the other 4. I'm sure that happens probably more than they would like you to know. Because, I mean, it's not, there's no, I don't think there's any accountability of like, we're going to make sure you watched all these before you vote on it. Like, the whole system's kind of silly. I don't know.
Next in my notes here, I wanted to talk about Frédéric Baer. Which at the end of the movie, you were like, wait, what happened? What's going on? Because you didn't get the in-jokes, man.
Sorry, I'm not a Little Women fan.
I thought that was interesting that she kind of makes the audience who's not familiar with it go, wait, what is the truth? What does actually happen?
Is that dreidel still spinning, man? It's a Christopher Nolan joke.
I like that they changed him to be French. I was really afraid that they were going to say he's German, even though he had this French accent. I'm like, please, Greta, you're smarter than that. And she was. And then also that the age difference wasn't so extreme between the two characters, which is something from the source material that also every other adaptation follows. I thought this was a union I could actually see happening, even though it was supposed to be just a gimmick in the story and also a joke to the author, because she's like, you want this character to be married off so badly? I'm going to find like the most ridiculous German professor to marry her to. And it was...
So is there a right way to look at that ending, though? Or is it you could look at that ending both ways? Because you don't know exactly what happened, right?
Yeah, I think that's the trick. Okay. Like, you don't... Yeah, I don't know. What is the truth? And we've never seen that before, and... rightfully so, Gerwig has been praised for paying tribute to the process of the original source material where the author didn't have a choice and couldn't leave her
it's such
character
a multi-layered, because the scene of her where she looks like she's not married, then the scene of her with the ridiculous love ending, and the scene of her changing the ending with the guy at the publishing company, those 3 scenes are all intertwined to where it's like you could look at it any which way, right? I think that's what makes it so brilliant. Does that make sense? Because as she's talking to the publisher about, okay, I'll change the ending, then the ending happens, and you don't know if it's in real life or not, and it goes like back to the publisher and back to her, like seeing her book printed. Like you're like, oh wait, hold on.
But at the final scene with the family, he is there. You know, when they're eating the cake and.
Right, but it could just be, okay, they're a thing now. It doesn't mean they like made out by the train station in the rain, right?
Like they're just engaged, you mean?
Or they're just like not even engaged, like because they don't know each other that well yet. It could just be like, okay, like we're dating.
That's not a thing in 1870, whatever it is.
But what do you think happened?
Well, I mean, I know what happens in the book, so
but that doesn't completely matter because this is this changes a lot of things about.
Well,
the
this
book,
is one of
no?
the only times where I actually would want them to be together. What do you think, Stacy? Because he's not that.
Stacy thinks the happy ending happened.
Well, he's not as maybe patronizing or ridiculous, and the age difference doesn't like freak me out in this one.
I mean, it's definitely more viable in this one than it has been in the past. Like in the past, I never really understood how she could want to be with the person that they had cast in it.
Yeah, and the Winona Ryder one, the movie ends with them getting together, and I'm like, this is where you want to end? You don't want to end with the family? Or like, this was almost making fun of the ending of the Winona Ryder one.
I like that they leave it open-ended, to be honest with you guys. I don't necessarily believe the kiss in the rain. Like, I feel like that was the ending of the book, not the ending in the life. But I do think that he becomes a part of her life. Like, I definitely think something happens because he was in the ending scene. I like that that I don't have to think about it. I like that they make her stronger than that.
They give her agency over.
Yeah. Because it's more believable to me with her character throughout the entire movie.
Also, that scene where she says that she's lonely.
Yeah.
Which you would be, especially, we see this in suffragette history, for example, people fighting for women's rights. They were considered too strong and they often stayed single because no man wanted to, be with them and support their views. And so...
Fun fact.
This movie on a $17 million budget, this is still in the theaters. Can you realize? That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
You can still go see, like, they have
it's like a La La Land moment right here.
It's made over like $100 million domestically. It's
Very
crazy.
Nice. Very nice.
You go, Greta.
You don't need no nominations. You have us.
Do you think she's gonna make a third movie with
Shalomania?
No, with Saurus.
Well, actually, you know that she wasn't supposed to be cast in the original. She wrote to Greta, basically saying I'm going to be Joe. The fact that she was so confident in it is why she got the role. She was hesitant about putting her in it because she didn't want to do two movies in a row with the same person.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's like, I'm going to go sports on you. It's like when you have a good quarterback coach combo.
Right.
You know? There's nothing wrong with, hey, this is really working out. Let's keep working together. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But whatever happened to stage names? Saoirse Ronan, Florence Pugh, Eliza Scanlon, Timothy Chalamet. What are these names?
You're saying bring Doris Day back?
Jesus.
Bring those names back?
God.
Cary Grant? Those are some great stage names.
Yeah, and then you have the old guard in the movie. It's like Chris Cooper and Meryl Streep. Like, those are actor names. Like, what the hell? I don't even know how to pronounce these other ones. Anyways, hot take.
How did we feel about this movie removing all religion and spirituality from the lives of these women when that was really a big part of what shapes them? Is that too modern, or is it
makes it more relatable?
Makes it more relatable.
Modern.
Gets those millions in. This movie was very, very modern.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind it, I don't think.
I think I liked it better.
I mean, are other period piece movies known for being 110% accurate with everything? Is that like, because I'm not into the period piece world. Like, is that a thing they take pride in?
I mean, people with any book to movie thing, people can get pretty Tom Bombadil wasn't in The Lord of the Rings, and I'm upset about it because these movies needed to be 10 hours long.
I'm saying it's more of a thing. It's like more of a modern critique to do with every movie where it's like, well, in Gravity, George Clooney should have floated that way because the planets were like, okay, who gives a crap? But I don't know, just specifically in the period genre, is that a thing where you get criticized if it's not totally, the dresses have to look like they did back then, and you have to have your religion.
I don't know. I mean, these movies
are
are never accurate. If you go back to some of our episodes on period pieces, there's always stuff that's really modern or, so it'd be nice to have that, but I don't see that happening. And
you have to be able to make it so that people want to watch it. And perfect example is you. If it was more religious based or more, I don't know if you could have gotten through it because you didn't relate to it as much.
Well, I mean, that was tough for me even in the book when they open their Christmas presents and every kid gets the same book of Pilgrim's Progress. I'm like, they couldn't have had one book and then shared it?
I don't know. I don't think it would have messed with me relating to. It's not like I can't really relate to the movie as it is. It's about a bunch of Little Women in early America. Like, it's a really good movie. It's not, to me, a good movie because I can relate to it. There's nothing relatable for me in that movie. It's just a really good movie. So I guess if you have the religion there, I don't think, just depends on how you do it.
Wouldn't have hurt it.
Yeah. The thing is, I think the religion, especially back then, is so twisted and so out of touch with what we have today. Like, I just don't know that it would have fit with the other modern themes she put in there, no?
Oh, maybe you're right. Yeah.
But like, okay, so Aunt March is pretty progressive and she's having conversations you wouldn't have had back then, but let's put some really outdated religious references in, and I don't know that would have worked.
This is tough because there's so many things in the book that I'm like, oh, I wish this was in the movie, and then you can't make time for everything.
Yeah.
One of those things to me was Meg and her husband and that proposal scene, which is so charming, but it was completely left out. I love James Norton as her husband. I don't know. I just love James Norton.
By the way, Greta Gerwig's next project that is announced is with Margot Robbie, and it's called Barbie, written by the guy that wrote Marriage Story. And it's about a doll living in Barbie land, expelled for not being perfect enough, sets off on an adventure in the real world. A live-action feature film based on a popular line of Barbie toys? That sounds terrible.
She's gonna pull it off.
If anyone can do it, it's Greta. That sounds really bad.
Does she have any, like, in the writing? Or is
It's just announced that they're making that movie. Interesting. What else? Anything else about Little Women?
My last note here is about using props.
Okay, come at me. What you got?
And using also when Amy goes out after that scene in the studio and she's getting dressed and she's like, undo my apron, and she puts her coat on.
Yeah.
I kept waiting for her to put on her hat, and she never does. And she runs out to the carriage like, hey, boo, and then they go in the carriage and drive away without her hat. And I'm like,
unbelievable.
This lady is basically naked, and you're taking her, you want to marry this girl? Just sometimes the costumes were so on point, and then other times it's these little things that are like, But again, that's one of those accuracies in period drama.
Oh, yeah, so
that
you had a
only
big problem
me.
Like with the paintbrushes, right?
I had a big problem with that scene. Because the dialogue in that scene was so profound between Laurie and all I could look at was her fiddling with the props. And I like actors using props, and I like them showing their passions. And this was so well done with Jo and having the ink on her hands and switching hands because her hands get tired, and that laying out of the papers on the floor. Like, writers do that. I don't know. That was so well done. And then Amy's like, was she supposed to just have been painting because she's cleaning her brushes, but then the oil paintings are completely dry, and then she keeps cleaning the same brush over and over, and she sticks it in upside down into a cup, which you're not even supposed to dry them right side up. You're supposed to dry them laying down because the moisture from the bristles will seep into the wood of the brush, and it makes the wood expand and contract, so eventually the metal piece attached at the top will fall off. So that's not how you treat brushes. And just, it seemed like she was not in touch with this character's passion for art or knew enough about the tools and how to take care of them.
That's why she's never going to make it as a painter. That's why she has to marry.
That was another thing that was like, you know, Beth is perfect at playing the piano, which I didn't even mind. Like, yeah, maybe she just learned it on her own and she's just by herself at home playing the piano. But with Jo, we see she's really working on her writing, and it's not perfect, and it goes through this journey. But then with Amy, it was just like she was this freaking Renaissance level painter, and she's like, I suck at this. Which was interesting when they showed also the comparison between her very traditional art and the other people doing the impressionism of the time in the park. I thought that was a cool little thing that maybe only I noticed.
There's also that scene that you notice when she's in the aunt's house, and the aunt comes around the corner, and like Florence is pretending to paint. Like, she's just dabbing the thing with the brush, but the thing is like finished.
Yeah. And I compared this to our Sense and Sensibility episode that I did with Stacy, where the sisters, they're also both playing the piano and drawing, but their drawings are like, they look like teenagers doing them, or people learning, or, you know, it's not perfect. And like, yeah, this is their passion, but they're not getting formal training, which is a thing with Amy, like she couldn't afford any of this.
Really, the canvases, the paint, that would have been super expensive, right?
Right, and she's only able to really get into something like oil painting probably because of Aunt Marge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she's just a perfect painter right away, but then doesn't know how to work with her tools, and then she's like, I'm not gonna do this, I suck at this. Like,
what if she was like, I suck at this, and it pans around and it's like a stick figure in oil? I'm never gonna make it.
That's what I wanted. It's like a rainbow. With the blue clouds.
It's a bowl of fruit.
Shucks.
No, instead it's like the Mona Lisa there, and she's like, this is no good. That's just one thing where I feel like the prop department wasn't in touch with the acting happening on the screen.
Right.
That was only the one thing that took
Here,
me
Florence,
out of it.
take this rag and keep wiping the brush.
Yeah. It's like, what is she doing?
It also makes me wonder, okay, let's say, so that scene with her and Timothy where she's cleaning the brush in the studio, because they're having this just insanely deep conversation, if she is just fidgeting with the brush too much and it's way too accurate and she's actually cleaning it like you should, would that distract from what's actually going on between the two characters?
No, I think
Is there,
it's
like,
more
too
of a
much hand
viable
stuff going on?
No, I think it's more of a viable thing, but I also think that maybe that scene wasn't like perfect with the props because it wasn't prepared for that long of a scene. Remember, that's the scene that they gave. That's the scene that they gave. They literally wrote out like 5 minutes before they started filming it. It was still on paper. It wasn't even something they rehearsed.
So Florence is like, well, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, it was like, okay. And then there's just already the setup already had like there, and like there was nothing prepared for that. I wonder if it had a big impact on that. Because it's like the one and only scene where the props weren't used, like not the one and only, but one of the big ones where the props weren't used properly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But to your question, I actually just watched an interview with Rachel Weisz for the podcast we did on My Cousin Rachel.
Okay.
The interviewer asked her, because there's some choreography happening within the scene where there's this one long shot where she has to like light this candle and then she walks back, and then there's also another scene with her playing cards, and they asked Rachel Weisz, is it more difficult coordinating your body and then also doing the lines? And she said, no, it actually makes it easier because you have something to do, and then your acting comes naturally, and then you're... So apparently it's easier, but I don't know. I'm not an actor. I don't know the answer.
Thespian. I don't know these things.
I don't know. When you see people like recorded on like doing voiceovers and things like that, they're always still moving.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? They're always still using their body, and they're still
it would
like
help you get even more into character.
I don't know. I feel like it kind of just makes it easier to just let it be.
Right. Well, 10 out of 10. So I am not, this is the first and only Little Women thing I've ever consumed. In your vast knowledge of the Little Women adaptation universe, where does this stand?
Well, you grew up with the Winona Ryder one. Right?
Yeah.
The first one I saw was the Technicolor one. I think it's from the 50s.
No, I've seen that one
really
too. No, actually, I saw that one first before I saw the Winona Ryder one, because my grandma was really into watching old movies.
Black and white one with Katharine Hepburn.
Yes.
I have not seen that one.
I have seen that one too.
Oh, okay.
From what you've watched, where does this stand?
I don't think you can compare. I think that's the difference, is that this is such a great adaptation because it changes it and makes it so different that I don't know if I could compare them, because it's not.
Pop out.
No, it's not a cop-out. I like this version better than the Winona Ryder one.
Yeah,
I don't think
me
it's
too.
comparable to the black and white ones, because it's those are much more on point to being near the book.
Okay, then. No,
And it's like 50 years
that's
later.
Yeah, and it's like, it's
I'm
not.
saying it doesn't matter how
Now,
close
I
it is to
haven't
the source
seen-
material. Just as a movie, as a piece of art, where does...
I definitely think
Right.
it's better than the Winona Ryder one, because
Yeah.
you have so many things happening in this movie with color, with style, with
Yeah.
camera work that maybe you just didn't have the consciousness of back in the day. So this is just a natural development of movie making.
Okay.
So I don't know if it is fair to compare them. But the one that recently came out
That is the one I haven't seen, and that's the one that you can offer a better intake
the
on
one
than I
with
have.
Uma Thurman's daughter playing Jo. It's free on Amazon.
It's supposed to be phenomenal.
And there's a scene where the mom like tries to be strong after the death of her daughter, and then she goes into a room, and as soon as the door shuts, she like breaks down, and it's phenomenal. Like, it's one of the best acting. Like, I think it's just as good as Laura Dern's. But again, that is a series. You have more time to really deal with the source material.
Oh, like an Amazon TV show?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
No, I think the best one is actually the anime from...
I was about to break into racist English-Japanese accent anime voice, and I stopped myself. My little women!
Jack.
He has to scream, right?
They scream more in the American voiceover than they do.
They do so much more. So much more.
A lot of anime with our kids, and it's a lot of screaming.
It isn't though when you watch the actual when you watch the ones with the subtitles and not the English translation, because for some reason the English translation they decide that they have to yell every single line, and I don't get that in
baby voices. Too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't get that with the
with the Japanese.
like this is really different. Some characters that really bother me in the American version do not bother me at all.
That's all I ever hear them talking.
Is it an anime series or it's an anime movie?
It's a series. It's like Heidi. It has the same style too.
Interesting.
They have one of Anne of Green Gables too.
Little Women anime. I'm gonna look this up.
Oh, they have a Little Princess one too. They have a bunch of these classic novel series for kids, which I think is really cool. Yeah,
sign us off, Tubby. What you got?
You can find us at Modern Life Pod on Twitter and Instagram. You can email us at modernlifepod@gmail.com. Our website is modernlifepodcast.com. Let us know what you think. Reach out to us. We're on YouTube. That's it. Thanks for listening.
All right, see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
You mind yourself, dearie. Someday you'll need me, and you'll wish you had behaved better.
Thank you, Aunt March, for your employment and your many kindnesses, but I intend to make my own way in the world.
Oh, well, no one makes their own way. Not really. Least of all a woman. You'll need to marry well.
But you are not married, Aunt March.
Well, that's because I'm rich.